Is there time for the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns to make a late run for an NCAA berth? It's Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sun Belt, your teams every day. How many teams from the Sun Belt can make the NCAAs? All right, Southern Miss looking for that consistency that they've been lacking since Sun Belt play started. And let's start it off with, can the Ragin Cajuns make a run? They did have a pretty good week, right? They took 2 out of 3 last weekend. They've won a couple of midweek ball games this week. They are, this will update, they are in the top 50. Okay. And I remember I said a couple weeks ago, they only kind of need to be in the top 45 because they finished up with Coastal Carolina. That was presuming Coastal Carolina was going to be a top 10 team. And we'll get to Coastal. That people still have them as a national seed. So that's impressive. Okay. And so, because if the Cajuns are 45, and I fully believe, and I'm with Kendall Rogers on this, you cannot have a top 50 is not going to work, okay? You need to be top 40 for the most part, all right? Again, the Cajuns didn't sneak in. They were regular season champs, and they got bounced out. I think they were one and done, right, in 23 of the Sun Belt Conference tournament, but they had a fantastic regular season. I think they won about 45 ball games that year, and so they got in. But I'm not going to be, unless you are that situation, and, you know, Coastal would feel safe. Southern Miss would feel safe that they got bounced out early. But, you know, unless you're the Cajuns are going to win it this year, or ULM going to win it this year, or, you know, South Alabama, right? You're not feeling all that confident sitting at 49. I wouldn't. But if I can get to that 45 spot, 43 spot, and then host Coastal Carolina, which is just 3 weeks away, technically 2, right? And so they're sort of getting it together. All right, they won 2 out of 3 last week on the road to Arkansas State, right? The Friday and Saturday games were outstanding. That Friday game especially was outstanding. And then Arkansas State does rally to win the Saturday or the Sunday ball game. All right. They beat Southern in a ball game that they were losing 5-3. They win it 15-5, and they easily took care of Nichols 7-1. All right. Georgia State, I just don't think is going to be terribly easy. They come in with 117 RPI, but you know, they don't play all that well on the road, but then again, who does? They're 7-11 on the road. They're 22-22 overall. They do have a win at Georgia Tech. That's like one of the best wins of the season in the Sun Belt. And even their loss was 4-1. They beat Georgia Tech 9-4. They lost to them 4-1 like a week later. Little home and home. But Georgia State got, you know, swept by Marshall. They sort of turned it around a little bit when they took 2 out of 3 from Arkansas State, but then they got swept by Texas State. And then they decided to take 2 out of 3 from ULM. Then they sweep James Madison, but then they lose 2 out of 3 to Coastal Carolina, but they did take the final ball game 11-5. They did lose the first game to Old Dominion, won the last 2 ball games, and their 2 games this week, I presume due to weather, were canceled. Alabama State and Alcorn State. All right. And now they have the Cajuns. Cajuns are going with Cody Brash, who's been very good the last 2 Fridays, been outstanding. And Andrew Herrmann is their Saturday starter. Don't know who's pitching on Sunday for the Cajuns. And so the Cajuns are 27-18. Let's just play this out. 2 out of 3 against Georgia State. And so that makes you 29-19. We'll say, for argument's sake, and I certainly don't necessarily believe it's going to happen, let's say they take 2 out of 3 from App State, because that's how you're going to get into the higher 40s. App State's not that great RPI-wise, but it would be winning a series on the road. And so what did I say? 29-19. Then you would become 31-20. And let's just say you take 1 ball game from Coastal Carolina, you would be 32-22 heading into the Sun Belt Conference tournament. Boy, I got to think, if you take 2 out of 3 this week from Georgia State, 2 out of 3 from App, and at least win 1 against Coastal, I think you'll be sitting in the top 40 at that point in time. And you really only want to avoid getting swept by Coastal Carolina, because you could take 2 out of 3 from Georgia State, take 2 out of 3 from App State, put yourself in a good position. Most importantly, would be their conference record, right? So what that would be? That would be 4-2. So they'd still be under 500 in the conference, even if they took 2 out of 3 from the next 2 series. They're 9-12 in the conference. That would make them 13-14. That doesn't guarantee you a Sun Belt Conference tournament bid. That's going to be the thing going up against Coastal Carolina. They could, be close to 40 in the RPI, but if they get swept by Coastal Carolina, they may not make the Sun Belt Conference tournament, and yet their RPI could go up because of the way it's all set up. So, just to go out and say, well, we got to sweep Georgia State and App State, I don't think that's going to happen. Or are you going to say you're putting yourselves in a position where you're going to take 2 out of 3 from Coastal Carolina? When was the last time that happened? So I'm not sure those things should be on the menu, but you want to be putting yourself in a position to where winning 1 out of 3 against Coastal Carolina gets you in the conference tournament and helps that RPI out as well. I think the Cajuns can do it. Got to figure out what you're doing on Sunday with the pitching. And a little bit more consistent and explosive baseball. They can be very explosive. Remember, against Troy, they had a couple of leads. One they hung on to win, one they blew. Could have very easily swept them and lost 2 out of 3, right? Let's see what they did against Troy. They lost 7-6 in a ball game that they blew. They won 7-6. They almost blew that ball game. And they gave up. They methodically, they have a 6-1, 7-1 lead. All right. They were winning, 11-3. And somehow they managed to lose 15-11. They could have, I don't know if easily is the right word, but they absolutely could have swept Troy. But that's the reason they're in the position that they're in. They're 9-12 for a reason. But let's see if they can get off to a good start. Cody Brash can get them a win on Friday and set the tone for the rest of the weekend. We'll see if that happens. I think they're going to be able to, I'm going to put it this way. I think they will put themselves in a position to be in the Sun Belt Conference tournament and an at-large berth when they're playing Coastal Carolina. It'd be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, final series of the season. That's what I think. They'll be close to 40. They will be 13-14 heading into that final series with Coastal Carolina. Okay, Southern Miss, despite looking like they're going to get a national seed, fans are just not thrilled with their lack of consistency. We'll talk about that after we come back and I tell you about FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and every possession matters. If you're looking to get even closer to the action, FanDuel has a great offer for you to get started. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right. Turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets just for getting started. I like using FanDuel during the playoffs because everything I need is right there in one place. You can check stats, trends, matchups before making your picks, which makes the whole experience feel a lot more informed. Whether looking at a player props or just following your favorite stars, it adds another level of excitement to every game. It's really an easy app to get to navigate, and it makes playoff basketball even more engaging from start to finish. Wonder what you could have had if you took the Knicks in the series against Atlanta when they were down 2-1. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. All right, let me tell you about the Everydayer Club, your daily reminder, your chance to get in on the Everydayer Club. You can join it at lockedonsunbelt.supercast.com, lockedonsunbelt.supercast.com. You can go ad-free with Locked On Sunbelt, and you get that members-only Discord access. lockedonsunbelt.supercast.com, lockedonsunbelt.supercast.com. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Southern Miss is having a really good season. Let's not make any mistake about it, okay? They are, 9 in the RPI right now? And that's because they took 2 out of 3 and didn't finish off the sweep against South Alabama. They are 8th as of this conversation while recording. Anybody starting early? But they were all the way up to 5th, right? Week or two ago. They are looking at a national seed, although 11.7 did have them as a 16 seed. And again, Coastal Carolina was a 7 seed. I don't know how that's working out, but okay. But Southern Miss is just, they can't figure it out. They have some really good, I guess, analytics, if you want to look at it. Let me see if I can put the RPI, because they are just having, they got one of the best schedules in the nation, one of the best out-of-conference RPIs. They have the best non-conference RPI in the nation. Like Auburn is 3, Alabama is 5. They're number 1. Their non-conference strength of schedule is number 4. Their overall strength of schedule is 6. Excuse me. That's amazing. Even UCLA, their strength of schedule, they're number 1 record-wise and RPI-wise. They are 13. All right. Texas A&M having a great season, 34-8. Strength of schedule is 27. All right. Non-conference strength of schedule for A&M, 162. They got a 4 RPI. Texas, strength of schedule, non-conference, 121. Georgia Tech, 2nd in the nation RPI-wise in Warren Nolan. Non-conference schedule, strength of schedule, 189. Southern Miss, 4. So they're having a fine season. Just not as good in conference as they were out of conference, as they are 13-8. And fans complaining, they just can't seem to finish things off. Against Arkansas State, they actually lost 2 out of 3. I think that started the Sun Belt play. They lost the first game to Troy. And they were actually down in that ball game. They were actually up 3-0, but then fell behind 5-3. But they did take the final 2 ball games against Troy. App State, they won the first game 6-5. They scored 4 runs in the 8th inning. They lost the second game 6-2. They blew them out 13-4. Old Dominion, they're even losing to Old Dominion 10-8, and that game's not nearly as close as that score would indicate, although I do think they got the tying run to the plate in the 9th inning in that ball game. but they were down in the ninth inning 10-3. So that wasn't much of a ball game. They did take the finale 8-7. Against the Cajuns, they lost 2 out of 3. They beat the Cajuns 8-1 to set the tone on a Friday night. The Cajuns come back, win 8-4. I'm going to guess that's an Andrew Herrmann special. All right. And then in a ball game where the Cajuns couldn't buy a base hit, they had 5 hits, not one after the third inning, and Southern Miss's pitching was all over the place. And the Cajuns beat Southern Miss 6-5 despite getting out hit 10-5. Excuse me. And so that's the kind of consistency or lack thereof that they are talking about. They did sweep Texas State, which is a nice sweep, by the way. And I still got something caught in my throat. I'm sorry. They did squeak by South Alabama on that Friday night, blew them out on Saturday, but couldn't put them away on that Sunday. And that's the difference between being 8 RPI right now and a 5 RPI right now. All right. Also, they did drop a ball game to Tulane. That did not help. And now they're getting ULM in. And let's not kid ourselves. ULM is fighting for their Sun Belt tournament lives. They got off to such a great start and have fallen apart since. Let's see here. They swept Texas State. A little bit shocking. They lost 2 out of 3 to South Alabama. Am I looking at the right one? Oh, they lost 2 out of 3 to South Alabama, but they took 2 out of 3 from the Cajuns, but they lost 2 out of 3 to Georgia State. They lost 2 out of 3 to App. They've lost 2 out of 3 to Arkansas State. They lost 2 out of 3 to James Madison, which is really inexcusable. They got a nice win against La Tech. Let's see if that straightens them out, because they're just going in the wrong direction over the last, what is that? James Madison 1, Arkansas State 2, App State 3, Georgia State 4. They had lost 4 straight series after taking the Cajuns down 2 out of 3. And so we'll see if they can get it going. And there's just a lot on the line for both these teams. ULM trying to solidify themselves in the Sun Belt Conference tournament after getting off to a great start. And Southern Miss, not only solidifying their opportunity to host, which I don't think is up for grabs, but again, 11.7 had them at 16, and yet Coastal was at 7. I'm confused on all of that. And potentially being a national seed, but I don't know how they get to be a national seed if someone's got them seeded in a bracketology at 16. So 11.7 does not think Southern Miss, despite having a non-conference RPI of 1 and a non-conference strength of schedule of 4 as a potential national seed. And those Power 4 teams have top 50 non-conference strength schedules. Just saying. So we'll see if Southern Miss can find that consistency. All right, let's talk about it with 3 weeks left to go. It's actually about a month, right? 3 weeks in the regular season and then the Sun Belt Conference play. How many teams can be from the Sun Belt into the NCAA tournament? We'll do that right after I thank everybody. We are continuing to grow, almost at that 2950 mark, kind of up and down a little bit lately with subscribers. I'm not sure why, but I appreciate the ones who have continued to subscribe. But the numbers that I get just from posting on Facebook or from Instagram to Facebook or however it gets there, like over 125% over last month. It's amazing. And again, going from a handful to hundreds to thousands on Instagram and TikTok, it's really appreciated. And you can just see the growth. Again, it may not be a straight line, but it may be, a little bit like that, a little bit up, a little bit down, but higher, and then a little bit down, and it looks pretty good. All right. And I appreciate it. So it's a big help. And I thank you. Thank you very much. It's tough to compete against the bigger boys, as the group of 5 tend to have, but I appreciate all of the assistance. If you are new here, please go over to YouTube and subscribe on Locked On Sunbelt. And don't forget about Apple and Spotify for your audio podcasts as well. It is all sincerely appreciated. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sun Belt, your teams every day. How many teams can get into the NCAA tournament from the Sun Belt? I think the max is 5. The only way it's 6 is if somehow Texas State, Arkansas State, and the Cajuns all get into Sun Belt, top 40 RPI wise, and that's not all that impossible. And then South Alabama wins the Sun Belt Conference tournament. Do I think that's likely? No. All right. I'm going to sit here and I'll be shocked. I think most people would agree. We'll be shocked if it's either Coastal nor Southern Miss don't win this. Now it's baseball, and although you do need to win multiple games, you may get knocked out early. And so that puts you behind the 8 ball. You get a bad bounce, a bad call, a bad hop, whatever the case may be. We know how fluky, no pun intended, baseball can be. But I would expect, we all think Coastal Carolina and Southern Miss are basically locks, right? They're hosting. Coastal Carolina still looks to be getting that love from last year, and in a lot of brackets, national seeding. All right, Southern Miss also hosting. So that's 2. All right. If we go to the RPI again, I think Texas State, did they fall to 41? Is that where we were? Let's see. Texas State is at 41. Arkansas State is at 46. Texas State has South Alabama this weekend. That's at home. Now, South Alabama is 79. I'm not sure how much that's going to help, but it's not going to hurt that much. You could go up a little bit. And if you're Texas State, you only have to go up a little bit. That's what we mentioned. You only have to be top 40, I think. Then they get Arkansas State. And that's where it could be an issue that these two teams need to play each other. Because is that going to be an elimination situation for the loser for the bracket? That's the only problem. And the other problem is Marshall. They're hosting Marshall. They are hosting Marshall. And, that RPI is going to go down because you're playing a team at home with a 176 RPI. So that's not great. Not great. So Texas State, if they take 2 out of 3 from South Alabama, they do have to go to Jonesboro. So you would get bonus points for that. If you take 2 out of 3 there, even if you sweep Marshall, your RPI goes down. Your RPI goes down a little bit. They'll still be in the 41. They'll still be in the top 40, I think, heading into the Sun Belt Conference tournament. Let's see where Arkansas State would be. Arkansas State, they get ODU. That's not going to help. All right. It does help that it is on the road. And sorry to say, if you're Arkansas State and you want a chance at a large berth, you got to sweep Old Dominion. I mean, that's basically it. You want to see them quickly go from the top. They were 40 in the top 40. Now they're top 50. If they lose one game to Old Dominion, they won't be in the top 50. They may be lucky to be in the top 60. And if you lose 2, that's the end of your at-large berth. That's where we are. All right, that is, as the kiddies say, real talk. Do the kiddies say that? So you got to go out and sweep Old Dominion. Then you get a big series against Texas State, and you're at home. Can you take 2? If you sweep Old Dominion, and they're sitting at 134. So let's just say, for the sake of this argument, they move up to 43. And if you take 2 out of 3 from Texas State, aren't you going to be in the top 40? The problem is, did you eliminate Texas State? That's going to be the problem. So 4 teams is going to be difficult getting into the Sun Belt Conference or into the NCAA tournament. Then you do get South Alabama in Mobile. So you do get bonus points for that. So they do have 2 of their last 3 series on the road. All right. And then the Cajuns. And we'll find out a lot with what going to happen with the Cajuns this weekend. In fact, the next 2 weekends. All right. They're playing Georgia State and App State. Tough to say to sweep both those teams. You're not going to sweep. I don't think you're going to sweep App State in lovely Boone, North Carolina. But I do think they'll take 2 out of 3 from Georgia State, and let's see what happens against App. All right. And if they can get that in there, they can be in a top 40 situation. Their analytics, a top 40 RPI, their analytics, the Cajuns' analytics, not quite as good as we have seen, of the Cajuns, but compared to, say, Southern Miss and Coastal Carolina. Let's see, where are the Cajuns at? They are at 49. See, their non-conference rates of schedule is 57. Their non-conference RPI, which isn't bad, is 27. And their overall strength of schedule is 44. I don't think that's a problem. That shouldn't be a problem. Those numbers, all their numbers are better than Pittsburgh, who's sitting one spot ahead of them from the ACC. All right. Cajuns are 27-18. Pittsburgh's 28-15. Pittsburgh's strength of schedule 74-44, and they're playing in the ACC. Their non-conference RPI 52 to the Cajuns 27, and their non-conference strength of schedule is 250. Pittsburgh scheduled themselves like the Cajuns did a couple of years ago to win 40 or 45 ball games, and they did not do it. Let's see if we can get 2023 here. I think the Cajuns finished at 41. Let's see if we'll move here. Let's see what the Cajuns were, because I knew they did not have a very difficult schedule, and they had a great season. They had a great regular season, but their RPI wasn't great. Where was it? Oh, wasn't it 2023? I thought it was 2023. Oh, no, maybe 2024. Okay, my mistake. All right, 41. Okay, they're 23-7 in the Sun Belt. That's ridiculous. Okay, it wasn't awful. Their strength of schedule was 60. It's not awful. It's not great. Non-conference RPI was 69. Nice. And their strength of schedule, non-conference, was 65. So not like numbers that they have now, but I mean, they were 26-8 at home, even 14-6 on the road. They were 6-7 against quad 1 teams. Pretty good for a Sun Belt squad. 7-5 against quad 2, 12-4 against quad 3, and 17-4 against quad 4. All right. But they just had a ridiculous season. They didn't win 45 games. They won. Their overall record was 42-20. I'm not sure if that counts. Well, it does count the tournament because that's 62 ball games. Okay. And they were one and done in the Sun Belt, and they won 2 ball games in College Station. I'm going to tell you, I think there's going to be 4 teams. All right. I think the Cajuns, we'll just go all homer there. We'll see. The Cajuns can make a run, and I think you'll get one of Arkansas State and Texas State. Tough for both those teams to get in there, although if the team that loses makes a run in the Sun Belt Conference tournament, they can get themselves back into it, especially if somebody can get a win against a Coastal or a Southern Miss. Then you may be back in business, because a loss later on won't hurt you that much if it's against the other team or the same team. But I'm going to say I think the Sun Belt is going to get 4 teams in. They got an outside shot at 5. 6 seems unlikely, right? That's going to mean that somebody out of that top 5 is winning the Sun Belt Conference tournament. And when I mean top 5, that's top 5 like RPI wise. All right. I didn't even mention Troy. I guess Troy could go on a run. And they get App State this weekend. We talked about that in yesterday's episode. So I'm all looking forward to it. It's going to be amazing. And so we're having fun with that. All right. I think I'm going to be back to watch some baseball tomorrow. We shall see. I don't know the exact itinerary. My niece is graduating college. So it all starts off with breakfast. And then I think we're having, again, I don't know about your family, but my family, it always just deals with food. The whole thing is around food. So we're having breakfast here in Louisville at my brother's place. Then we're going to Cincinnati and having a bite to eat with my niece. All right. Then we're doing graduation. And then I think we're coming back to eat. The whole thing revolves around food. So it doesn't matter if it's this or the family getting together in the summer. Just revolves around food. It is funny. In fact, they're having a big thing on Saturday, which unfortunately I can't make because work. I was fortunate enough to get Friday off. I did not want to push it. All right. All right. Again, please head over to Locked On Sun Belt over on YouTube. Would be a big help if you did subscribe. And Apple and Spotify are there for you as well. If you just want to download the audio, listen to it on the way to work, on the way back from work, it's a big, big help. All right. Please pass the word along. I will say, we did have a coach reach out so he can come on and talk about spring ball. We're going to see if we can get the dates to work out. All right. We'll see if that works out. Okay. Thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. All right. We'll be watching these ball games this weekend in the series. So there's a lot going on in the Sun Belt. That's for sure. All right. You've been listening and watching Locked On Sun Belt, your teams every day. Have a great weekend, everybody. Please make it a safe one. We'll talk to you again on Monday.